So today we're going to be teaching you the coolest knot I've ever seen. It's called the PR knot. Knots are always coming about. There's new knots always coming. The big talk has been the FG knot, and that's an amazing knot. But this is the latest, greatest knot. This thing blows the FG knot away, and super excited about this. Bass fishing is how I make my living, but catching fish is my passion. It doesn't matter where, and we're always learning from other ways of fishing that we can apply to bass fishing. The PR knot came from the saltwater world, and Mason's such an expert at it. Mason is who taught me how to tie it. I want Mason to show you guys how this PR knot, how to tie it. But we learned it from a gentleman down in Southwest Florida, has a little tackle shop there. They're specialized in deep water jigging, and that's where this knot came from. And Mason has taken it, incorporated it. We've applied it into the bass fishing world, and I want to share it with you all. So Mason, show us how it's done.
So first and most importantly is to have the right tool for this job. What I have here is a Shimano Type Light PR bobbin, and they're admittedly pretty hard to get because it's not super popular here.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's not in the bass fishing world. I mean, you're not going to find this at your local store yet, but who knows? Maybe after this video, you might.
So this is how you tie the PR knot for light line. First off, you take your braid main line and you pass it through the guide of your bobbin. Then you go and pull a little bit out. And if any bobbin you get, it'll have these rubber O-rings here.
Yep.
You'll go and wrap your braid through there a couple of times just to hold it in place for you. Make sure it's pulled in nice and tightly.
And that's what makes this knot so cool and unique over like an FG knot. It takes the mechanics of your hands out and basically uses this tool, which looks like a machine has tied it when you get done.
Absolutely. Because you're using a tool and you're using gravity a lot in it, it ends up becoming more of a almost machine knot instead of a tied knot, which makes it so strong.
And the whole focus of this knot is, doesn't an FG knot have like 90% knot strength, where this is like, I guess, a true 100%?
An FG knot, it can typically get around 90%. This is currently the only real knot that there is that you can get up to true 100% knot strength. So especially on this lighter line, you're really able to maximize your effectiveness.
Yeah, if you're using 10-pound braid and 6-pound fluorocarbon, you want every bit of strength you can get. And this knot does it.
Absolutely. So all you do once you got that started is just go and coil a bit around the spool, go and get a nice wrapped area in there, and that's what's going to be actually used on your knot itself. Then once you got that prepped, you just take your line, and I like to place under my ankle or under my foot just like I'm tying an FG knot.
Yeah, very similar to an FG knot, except you're using this tool instead of your fingers.
Absolutely. Then you just go and you lay your fluorocarbon tag in and your braid main line leading up to the bobbin together, and wrap around your fingers a couple times. And what you'll do is you'll pull out just enough from your bobbin that it lays right up against that fluorocarbon nice and tight. You don't want there to be a bunch of slack. So you really want to make sure you don't have any extra braid here, because if you do, it doesn't start wrapping your knot tightly. You have to have it really about as tight as you can there. Once you start spinning it, you really force it to wrap super tightly. Which, and to start it wrapping, all you do is you go and you just start spinning it, and it's typically a little tricky to get it started, but once you do, it just starts going down, all of the wraps falling side by side, creating a very, very tight hold.
And you're using gravity.
Using gravity and the momentum of the bobbin to go and wrap it into place. And all the bobbins, they have drag systems built in, which is what allows you to very finely tune it to get it to be super
And that's
strong.
that's why the certain bobbin is right. On an FG knot, you're counting your wraps, where this one, it's more of a length.
It's more of a length. So here I've got probably about 2 inches of what I consider the true coils. And that's good. I probably wrapped it 100 times around, but you don't count that with this. It's all about the length of the knot. Next up, all you'll do is you'll just pull a little tiny bit of braid out. And if you look really closely, you can see it wrap back against itself a couple times. And all it does is get the bobbin started going the other way.
So you went down, now you're going to go back
Then you go
up.
right back over all of them again. And all you'll do is you'll go and get it started the exact same way you did before. Just spinning down, going in the opposite direction.
Opposite direction.
You'll go and do that for the length of the knot as well. And then once you get to where you're satisfied with it, you'll go and pull off a little bit of braid there, and then you'll pinch it just like you would an FG knot. Let your left hand go, and you'll go and pull the rest of this off free from your bobbin. All right, now we're to what is arguably the most important part, and that's making sure that you're able to use this knot all day and not have to worry about it.
So it's finishing it.
So it's finishing it, correct. So first thing you gotta do, since I'm right-handed, I like to go and pass the knot off to my left hand, because that gives me a little bit more dexterity to control what I'm doing. So I can hold it like that instead. Then I'll take my braid tag and just do a single half hitch like I would finishing an FG knot or anything else.
Just a single half hitch, which just finishes the knot, and then it's basically secured.
Correct. Effectively, right now, this knot is done. However, we're going to make it...
And you can finish it just like you would an FG knot, but this is where I like that you're tying it, because you're teaching us a whole new way to even finish it too, which is pretty cool.
Correct. And it makes it cast a little bit better for you, but if you're using it out like this to get that extra edge, then having it cast that extra 5 feet is definitely going to be worth it for you. So now that's done, I like to go and, because you're spinning something, your fluorocarbon tends to get wrapped around the braid. And I just like to go and unwrap that because it makes it easier to work with everything. Just going to make sure your braid's really snug up against the knot so it doesn't slip ever. Like so. I'm going to pull it tight, and you can just grab that fluorocarbon and it'll uncoil for you.
And just like every knot that you do in the fishing world, don't let your dentist watch you tie this knot.
But no, luckily with this knot, you don't really have to pull on anything with your teeth. You more just hold it.
Hold it, yeah.
Next up, we'll do 2 more, just single half hitches. Just stacked one right after another.
Is this on the other side?
This is alternating.
Yes, it's just back and forth.
If you're using light line, though, you really don't have to. It's mainly just a habit deal for me.
So how you finish it, there's numerous different ways that you finish it. I do it different than he does with an FG knot. Ultimately, if it works for you, that's the key part of it. But what he does here to finish the knot is pretty cool as well.
All right, so now we've got that done. Now we're gonna make it so it's really smooth for you to cast. All you'll do is you'll hold it like you were before. Take your right hand middle finger, and you're gonna grab your braid main line and your fluorocarbon tag in and pull it tight like that. Then you'll take your braid tag, go through 1, 2, 3, 4 times. You can do more, you can do less. That's just a number that I found works really well for me. Then you'll see you've got this loop here that almost looks like a uni knot. But instead of pulling it tight right here, what you do is you unwrap it onto itself. And what it does is it creates a cone. So it goes through your guides extremely smoothly. And what you can do with this as well is you're better off unwrapping this more times than not. Like I probably unwrapped it 6 or 7 times there, because once you've got your main wraps undone, all it does is wrap around the braid and fluorocarbon, and it just comes undone anyway there. So you're safer to do more wraps than not enough. And all you do now, wet it like you would any other knot, and slowly let it pull itself together. Let the loop pull down.
So basically now you've tied a cone that's going to slide up to that knot, which makes it go through the guides even better.
And then you wet it again.
Than the traditional overhand knots.
Then you let it just slide its way down until it's nice and tight. And there you go. That's a finished knot. All it's left to do now is trim your tags and you're good to go. All right, so right here is what your finished knot will look like. As you can see, it's super slim, which makes it very easy to cast. Here you have your braid tag line, your braid main line, and your fluorocarbon tag line. And all that we need to do now is we need to finish the knot, or finish cutting the knot. And what I like to do, I like to leave a little bit more of a fluorocarbon tag than you would think, because all that does, it helps it hold tighter to the braid when you're casting it. So really, while it seems like it should make it cast worse, it actually helps you cast better due to how tightly it holds everything in place. And then your braid, I like to go and leave about an quarter, eighth of an inch. That way it gives me something to see when I'm fishing it, because what that braid will do, it'll unravel on itself and poof up, and it almost acts like a strike indicator when you're fishing, which is just another fun little trick you can do.
But as you can see, it's so streamlined. Obviously, it's light line, so it's hard for you to see, and it's hard for us to share on camera. But when you truly see this thing in person, it looks like a machine has tied this knot.
Here's our braid main line. Here's our fluorocarbon leader going off. There's the knot itself. And then right there, it's hard to see it, but you can see that, almost see that little cone right there that was made.
So there it is, the PR knot for light line. And be sure to stay tuned, because we're going to have a whole series on a lot of different knots throughout this coming year.